Golden words of the Buddha's teaching, how to escape the sufferings of samsara. In the ancient scriptures, the Blessed One spoke of the Western Pure Land, a realm said to be entirely free from suffering, a place of unceasing joy and abiding serenity in a timeless dimension. Upon hearing such teachings, beings of this Saha world, the mundane realm, often compare it to the pain and sorrows of their earthly lives. They may forget, however, that the Pure Land in question is fundamentally a realm of the mind, characterized by no self, non-action, without craving, without coming and going, filled with divine goodness and unwavering mindfulness. Do the inhabitants of that realm chase after worldly desires and sensual pleasures? Do they harbor ill will, engaging in rivalry and strife? Certainly not, so they do not suffer. Their minds brim with radiant loving kindness, untouched by greed, anger, or delusion. According to the sutras, to see what a day of those in the Western Pure Land is like, where happiness abides, allows us to discern clearly the source of true happiness. In the morning, they joyfully gather flowers from 10 directions to make offerings to the Buddhas. At noon, they partake of a meal, walking in meditative awareness and loving kindness, then listen to lectures on the Dharma, study the teachings, and in the evening diligently focus their minds to attain meditative concentration. They spend the entire day immersed in moral discipline, sila, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, prajna. How could suffering possibly arise in such a life? Meanwhile, in the Saha realm, our world, sentient beings are burdened with personal ambitions. Their minds chase after uncertain future hopes, while simultaneously drifting in regrets and sorrows of the past. Their hearts grow narrow, lacking understanding and compassion, and their speech and actions overflow with worldly desires. The three poisons, greed, anger, and ignorance, swell within, fueling the flames of passion that burn and destroy body and mind. Without ever thinking of letting go, how can one develop the capacity for concentration and insight? Everyone wants to gain something, yet they refuse to accept suffering. Isn't this a strange, greedy contradiction? Indeed, many people wish only for pure happiness, yet deny the presence of pain. Is that not a manifestation of self-centered greed? Once we decide to step into life's game, we should be willing to face its challenges head-on. If we accept being tossed about in this mundane realm, we should also have the fortitude to step over its thorns. Life does not offer anything good without also leaving us with tears and pain. If you do not wish your feet to be stained by mud, then do not naively step into this muddy mire of worldly life. If you desire tranquility, do not let your mind be pulled by the gossip and commotion of the world. After a long, cold night passes, the rising sun brings radiant warmth. The more one has experienced worldly sorrows, the broader one's compassionate heart can become. To be free from suffering, do not sow too many grand illusions. To escape samsara, do not harbor enduring cravings. Love, but do not cling or seek. Suffer, but do not suppress, pursue, or run away. When you struggle to forgive someone who has hurt you, strive nonetheless to forgive and be magnanimous. If it's hard to let go of worldly attachments, summon your strength and release them. Stopping all further craving is itself an act of virtue. All appearances in life, coming and going, are like clouds drifting over mountains, like water flowing by the hills, surging here and there, but eventually returning to the great ocean. We pass through life's unrest, guided only by a heart that accepts with compassion and a mind that remains calm. Through that, we recognize that nothing lasts forever, whether happiness or sorrow. Life can disturb the surface of a lake, but cannot unsettle the depths of a river. Those with shallow minds are easily shaken by adversity. One's true character reveals itself in the capacity to remain calm in the face of suffering. What condenses inward becomes solid and enduring. What disperses outward is restless, scattered, and fleeting. The same is true of the journey toward happiness and peace. An inward return to the core of our being, seeking to understand the nature of arising and ceasing, and discovering what genuine happiness is for us. Let us reflect on how many times we have held back tears to endure days of despair. If one day everything seems to turn against us, if the sky ceases to be blue and the eyes of the world are no longer kind, if roads close off, should we keep on going? If you find yourself wavering in that fragile state, you might be on a path that brings neither peace nor clarity. In such moments, it is essential to illuminate your mind and reconsider whether you are heading in the right direction. Some say, in the beginning, the world had no roads at all. Paths exist only because people keep walking. Similarly, our original mind has no defilement. Impurities arise only because we become deeply enmeshed in worldly dust. Over time, these become karmic patterns, layering on afflictions in our hearts. Some roads are gentle and blooming with soft grasses. Others are lined with thorns and sharp stones. Some roads lead to compassion and joy. Others lead to darkness and suffering. The reason we walk our path today is because we once chose it ourselves. Not everyone is fortunate enough to tread a safe, gentle, noble path. Many still wander, lost at countless crossroads with no exit in sight. If you've stepped onto a dangerous, dark road, rise up, leave it behind, choose a different path and pave it with roses for every step. Even if life lasts 100 years, how many truly live that long? Though you may love deeply, it's impossible to remain together for all eternity. People meet as companions at the start, but not everyone reaches the end of the road together. Do not expect to journey forever with each other, searching for the source of light. If you are too weary from the world's vanities, gossip, vexations over fame and gain, from hearts locked tight and closed-minded prejudices, some will carry on while others give up halfway. These are choices each of us must answer for ourselves. Only when we have weathered life's storms can we know how calm our minds truly are. Regardless, we must stand up and move forward. Remember, the pitfalls lie only beneath your feet, while the open sky stretches above. The sun and the moon still shine day and night upon your path. Flowers will bloom at each step. Sit quietly for a moment with the grass and trees. Watch sunlight dancing on the leaves, softly resting on your fingertips. In that stillness, feel your heartbeat echo through these 36,000 days. Whenever you are weary, sit in silence and realize that a flower blooms for no one, yet it still smiles. Hear the rain outside the eaves, whispering through the night. Rain has fallen like this for 1,000 years, each drop with its own joy or sadness. The wind glides by carrying a worldly fragrance, arriving and departing without notice, leaving the world vast and free. Gaze upon the clouds drifting at the horizon. Release the heavy burden of the self and feel your oneness with all places. Often, human suffering arises from the fear of losing something or someone familiar and dear. When loss does come, it shakes them, depriving them of a way of life, plunging them into unbearable pain and denial. But truly, we cannot lose what we never truly possess. What really belongs to you will always belong to you. What does not, no matter how hard you try to cling to it, will eventually slip away. When you recognize that the things you are determined to have are, in fact, transient, and you gradually relinquish your dependence on them, you become freer and happier. So love as genuinely as you can, but do not let your peace and happiness rely too heavily on someone else. One day you will understand, even this body is not truly you. The clinging that brings so much suffering can be released. Live with boundless openness. In the Aham Sutra, Gama, the Buddha says, "A person who does good is like the waxing moon, and one who does evil is like the waning moon." Why is that? The doer of good is like the moon from the first day of the month to the full moon, growing ever brighter. The doer of evil is like the moon from the full moon to the last day of the month, gradually fading into darkness. All who bear a human form have certain meritorious seeds, akin to a moon shining according to the blessings they have. If we fail to nurture these blessings, choosing instead to sow unwholesome deeds, we will, like the waning moon, sink into darkness, a sad prospect indeed. But if we treasure the bright moon of our good fortune, working to help it grow, we become like the waxing moon, shining more radiantly each day. Isn't that wonderful? Traveling through the fleeting days, let us cease our illusory dreams. Though life may be but a dream, let it be a dream woven with noble virtues. What is the hardest thing to do in this world? Possibly holding on to something we desire. When we become infatuated, the mind falls into attachment, the hand clings tightly, and fear arises when we think of losing it. The root cause is a deep-seated ego over many lifetimes. We relish receiving but seldom consider letting go. Typically, we let go only when we have no more strength to hold on, when we are so burned out that we have no other choice but to give up. Even so, It's still letting go, yet the approach is different. One approach is voluntary relinquishment, the other is forced surrender. The ensuing consequences and pains differ greatly. Sometimes we might sit down and honestly ask ourselves, all those things I once adored, what remains now? Perhaps only a heap of ashes in memory, or perhaps the shame of a drifting existence. Maybe just old scars, faint and unspoken, still painfully haunting the soul, daydreaming about a faraway happiness. Through the years, we gather experiences of both joy and sorrow, weaving illusions within illusions, never once having lived wholeheartedly for others, even for a fleeting moment. We forget our path, forget our companions, and forget the tears of an ocean that day and night engulfs so many in torment. And we have yet to truly care for our own selves. It turns out we, ourselves, are the suffering being needing rescue more than anything. If we cannot save ourselves, how can we save anyone else? The once cherished things now lie as dusty memories by the roadside. A gust of wind scatters them into the far unknown, leaving us alone with the ashes of life after countless births. The circle of life and death repeats indefinitely unless we awaken. Without a sudden insight, we remain consumed by illusions, wandering half-heartedly amid the worldly storms. Peering back through countless lifetimes, the dust of existence fades the garment of impermanence. One day, if we awaken from worldly illusions, we can receive the sweet dew of liberation, washing away our weariness. Then who are we amidst all these gains and losses? Where is the sunlight drifting in emptiness? A single step toward our true home, even over great distances, can be taken in an instant. Pebbles, though tiny, can form a mountain of practice in time. A small act of kindness can bring joy both to others and to ourselves. A bit of tolerance, stepping back, and the mind becomes peacefully vast like an ocean. A little forgiveness can mend old wounds, bridging old rifts. Even a small ray of sunshine can warm a cold winter. A tiny candle in a dark room glimmers timelessly. One verse of sutra or a single dharma teaching can shatter ignorance. A single seed of bodhi planted can blossom into future enlightenment. A single mindful breath maintained allows an entire day of peace. Those small things, never abandoned, become a path of happiness that stretches on forever. Surely most people want to live long and live well. But how to achieve such a life? We must practice these points wholeheartedly. Keep your mind calm amidst life's fluctuations. Do not let anger flare up over minor displeasures. Do not be attached to what is yours or what is not yours. Do not give rise to harmful intentions toward other beings. Live wholeheartedly and sincerely, ignoring the world's deceptions. Stay clear-minded, not following the crowd's pursuits for fame and pleasure. Each day, practice smiling at children and at flowers. Avoid hearing or speaking pointless gossip. Strive to do what you believe is right, to have a clear conscience and avoid later regret. When memories of the past, whether happy or sad, surface in your mind, smile at them all. Refrain from comparing yourself to others, or your family to other families, or your country to other countries. Why? Because no two individuals are alike, no two families identical, and no two places the same. Comparisons only lead to envy or undue ambition, bringing you nothing but weariness. Instead, think of positive possibilities and work to bring them to life in diverse, vivid ways. Do not fixate on others' faults, for they are not you. Dwelling on someone else's negative qualities gives birth to negativity in your own mind, distorting your thoughts and stealing away your natural warmth. Instead, practice listening to your own mind, your own breath. Cultivate understanding and empathy for others. Frequent practice of these disciplines reminds us to treat others as we wish to be treated. Human life is not truly 100 years, but exists only from breath to breath. We must therefore live beautifully, wholeheartedly, and peacefully in each breath, so that every breath may guide us to a higher life. A human life is considered wasted if one squanders one's own breaths. We should nurture an awareness of living together with and living for others. Without it, we might be misled by loneliness, and that lonely state will spiritually starve us. We should not compete with anyone in this world, for no one is truly number one, nor is anyone inherently important. Such notions of number one and importance are but illusions stemming from ego. Recognize that, in this life, no one is perfectly good or irredeemably bad. Qualities shift when conditions change. Understanding this protects us from extremes of hope or despair. We should know our abilities and limitations in dealing with people and situations so as to avoid regretful mistakes. We must also practice investing goodness into our minds and lives. Those are the most meaningful and enduring forms of investment. Each day, as the sun rises and sets, let us think of good things. Each day, spend an hour doing something challenging to strengthen your willpower. It is precisely willpower that helps us overcome obstacles and succeed. Never anoint yourself a saint, nor let anyone else do so. Instead, create the conditions for the saintly seeds within you to manifest through your everyday actions, and do not forget to help others nurture their saintly seeds as well. Speak less about morality and compassion. Rather, practice compassion and live morally in every deed toward others and all beings. The longest and most beautiful life is one nourished by simple love. All debts in this human realm are repaid time and again, while the paradise of oblivion seems distant. Pay off the debts of worry, for the endless hustle and bustle is an obstacle to our peace. To exist, humans cannot live in isolation, but must constantly interact with friends, family, society, and the vast universe. No matter how talented or well-prepared we are, unfavorable events still arise by natural law. Wherever there is gain, there is also the potential for loss. Wherever there is union, there is eventual parting. Yet few people ever want to fail. Humans suffer because they crave permanence, while life's nature is impermanence. When impermanence overtakes our attachments, we feel as though our world may collapse. But if we grasp the principle of dependent origination, pratitya samutpada, we realize that we have long enjoyed the universe's countless gifts. Thus, if the universe reclaims a portion to share with others, it is simply natural, not something bitter and unfair. Meanwhile, some individuals ignore others' suffering to advance their own desires and pleasures, so that one person's gain, one person's joy, comes from another's loss and sorrow. Yet that is the nature of the world, flooded with tears and distress. Only through letting go can our hearts find genuine peace. All suffering and all happiness emerge from our own minds and can dissolve likewise. Thus, however our minds are, that is how we will perceive our life experience. Like a pendulum clock, our minds eventually swing back to stillness. We are like petals drifting on the wind, rising into the sky and passing through storms and scorching heat, until at last we come to rest on the welcoming earth. A single human lifespan does not reflect the entire length of the samsaric journey. It could stretch across thousands or millions of lifetimes, or end in a flash if enlightenment arises in a single instant of insight. Our finite views are limited by adversity and pain. Those who experience life's hardships can understand the universal love that embraces all living things. Sometimes, a simple heart harboring a loving thought can transform wrongdoing into light. Everyone fears suffering, yet eagerly indulges in worldly desires. People want peace and avoid bitterness, but no one else can bear your pain for you. Attaining peace is not at all difficult if only one is ready to let go. No competing, no chasing, no clinging, no contriving, dwelling in unburdened presence. There is no need to lift one's face to the sky, begging for rescue from a noble benefactor. When we plunge into hardship and feel the scorching sting of suffering, it allows us to directly experience the torment we ourselves have, knowingly or unknowingly, caused others. No two forms of suffering are exactly alike. Each segment of birth and death contains new lessons that deepen our wisdom. As many beings as exist in this world, that is how many unique experiences unfold. Immersion in the ocean of suffering is the starting point of each person's journey of self-discovery, searching for the true essence of creation. Suffering is nothing to fear. What matters is what we learn from our pain and how we stand up to mend our hearts. Do not be afraid or confused. Carry a clear, compassionate heart as you walk through life. With each step, benevolent guardians and like-minded friends will appear, guiding you onward. You are never alone in this world. Truly facing and living in the present is not simple. It requires a stable foundation of concentration and a patient, persistent practice to develop strong inner qualities. Because we lack training in mindfulness, most of us live in the present while being lost in the present. If not bound to the past, we drift toward the future, ensnared by worldly plans and uncertainties, pursuing money, pleasure, fame, food, sleep, entertainment. Of the millions of thoughts arising each day, how many are unwholesome? How many unnecessary? How few are truly wholesome? Whether a thought arises consciously or unconsciously, each bears our own unique imprint. Every thought attracts a particular energetic field corresponding to its vibrational frequency. A thought imbued with high, selfless love and tolerance fosters tranquility, peace, and happiness in both the sender and the receiver. Conversely, a thought fueled by anger, greed, selfishness, or ill will emits a wave of heat, oppression, and heaviness that burdens the mind of both thinker and recipient. We should not curse our fate for burdening us with suffering, challenges, and obstacles. In reality, these troubles are like arrows we once shot. They flew their course and have returned to pierce us now. If what we send out was not an arrow but a flower, then what returns would also be a flower, not arrows or spears. Tranquility is not granted by begging or seizing it from elsewhere. It arises from small, pure thoughts within each person. Keep your mind wholesome. Once the mind is purified, peaceful thoughts arise and one's words and deeds naturally become upright. When will I be free of my karmic debts? When will I enjoy even a day of peace? Because life is a cycle of giving and receiving, with no break, and we ourselves hold the end of the thread we once knotted. Human life is short, do not squander it. Destiny fluctuates, do not panic. Life is precious, do not disregard it. Anger harms oneself, do not give in to rage. Life is meant to be joyful, do not dwell in sadness. Parents are benevolent, do not be unfilial. Spouses are bound by karma, do not despise each other. Children are dear to us, do not abandon them. Affection needs nurturing, do not be calculating. Superstition deceives, do not be fooled. Desire is endless, do not overindulge. Helping others is righteous, do not pass up opportunities. Peace is true happiness, do not let your mind be disturbed. Be mindful of your words, do not speak recklessly in a moment of excitement. A single kind sentence can warm 3 winters, while a cruel word can chill even the hottest summer noon. Think before you speak. Tread carefully on delicate matters, limit vain chatter. Do not let careless words estrange others. With restraint, even enemies can become friends. A person who cannot appreciate life's values becomes as barren as a desert. If we know how to cherish others, we value ourselves. Let your love shine upon all just like the midday sun. Those who harbor hatred suffer, while those who hate also find no peace. Therefore, never hate anyone. Destiny is like a book. If you don't pay attention, you may miss important details, but reading too intensely can be exhausting. Strive to live sincerely and humbly. No life is perfect. Betrayal can occur unexpectedly, so do not boast. Existence is not easy. Each home hides its burdens, each person their sorrow. So never ridicule anyone's struggle. Respect for others is self-respect. To gain the trust of others, prove yourself worthy. If you are trustworthy, people will want to be your friend. If you are earnest, people can rely on you. If you are sincere, life will naturally place its faith in you. Knowing what is worth saying, say it. Otherwise, remain silent. This is a mark of wisdom. Know what must be done, do it wholeheartedly. If not, step back, this shows understanding. Know when to express yourself. If not, withdraw, this is an act of intelligence. You can trust people, but do not expect rewards. Accept rewards only if you have contributed. Life's path is walked step by step. Affection is cultivated gradually. One's story is written page by page. No one is unlucky forever. No one escapes sorrow entirely. Maintain a positive attitude, and things will get better. Focusing on others' faults reveals one's own flaws. Criticizing others reveals unkindness in oneself. Judging others by your standards means no one will ever measure up. Aggressively cornering an opponent leaves no path to retreat for either side. Gawking at everyone else's affairs robs you of time to look up and admire the broader horizon. Those who are too domineering find no friends. Those who are too selfish become weary. Only compassion engenders true bonds, letting us embrace the whole world. When you have time, examine your own mistakes. Avoid discussing who is right or wrong in others. Though words alone cannot physically harm, they can undermine merit. The gravest verbal offense is slander, so be careful of what you say, even in jest. Avoid groundless accusations, or at least temper your words to preserve a little virtue. Even with reasons on your side, don't drive others to desperation. Maintain some tolerance. When admonishing someone, do not be too harsh. Keep a measure of kindness. If there must be judgment, allow a path for them. Accepting others opens a door for yourself. Understanding your surroundings expands your own compassion. A tolerant person treats others with a kind heart. A refined person respects others. A cultivated person displays courtesy in all interactions. Caring about others earns their attention and goodwill. Respect leads to mutual respect. When you approach all things with gentleness, your own heart becomes peaceful. The same applies among friends. Treat them with sincerity. Treat your loved ones with loyalty. Treat your partner with forgiveness. Treat your enemies with clemency. If kindness consistently guides your actions, in time, others will feel it and respond likewise. Holding goodness within raises the quality of your life. As appearance reflects one's mind, surroundings change according to one's heart. When our inner goodness grows big enough, it manifests outwardly, radiating to all and yielding miraculous results. After the rain, remember to bring in your clothes hung out to dry. After tears, remember to pause and reflect on your words. Parents may depart by the law of impermanence. No amount of filial piety or longing can bring them back. At day's end, we might finally learn how to smile, yet the sun has set. When someone has left this world, calling their name is futile because they vanish into distant oblivion. Awakening and realizing it was all a dream, one can only face life as it is now. Life is fleeting. Do not postpone kindness until regret takes over in the future. Give your whole heart to those present and cherish them now. Living one life, what do we truly gain in the end? A prosperous existence is not necessarily about wealth, but about spending each day meaningfully. Happiness does not come from competing with others, but from experiencing life with a grateful heart. Genuine joy arises not from external conditions, but from our inner being. Don't judge people by their wealth and status. Even if they are wealthy, that wealth has nothing to do with you. Don't make yourself a slave to another. There are those who, even when they have only one loaf of bread, will share half with you. Recognize such individuals. Don't expect that others will provide you financial support. Money is never enough for anyone. Instead, learn how to give. It's admirable and moral for friends to help each other. If they do not, it is also understandable. No one owes you anything. Cultivate resilience, independence, optimism, and happiness, for ultimately, only you can face life and death on your behalf. Grow strong. Do not become overly attached to anything. The world does not revolve around you alone. The earth keeps spinning without depending on just one being. Therefore, do not cling to whatever you possess. At best, we are travelers in this dusty world. We arrive empty-handed and leave likewise. Hence, practice letting go. People say that only when we lose something do we realize its value. In truth, we've always known what we had. We simply believed we'd never lose it. Treasure every little thing in life, because one day you'll see how important it truly was. There are moments we only realize were precious once they become memories. You might also find that letting go of something can be more peaceful than holding on to it in pain. Sometimes, forbearance is enough to dissolve small troubles. Some words and grievances are not worth the debate. Certain individuals are not worth waiting for if patience only leads to suffering. Often, people may not notice your best efforts, but once you stop trying, they notice immediately. Sometimes heaven withholds what you want, not because you are unworthy, but because it has prepared something better. Living simply brings joy, but very few people can do so. Overly complicating life leads to misery, and there are plenty of miserable souls. Much trouble arises from overthinking and indecision. So if something is worth picking up, don't hesitate. If something needs to be let go, do it decisively. One thing must end for something else to begin. No matter how mundane life seems, we must face it rather than flee or blame fate. Time moves forward. People come and go in the human world. We should never lose opportunities to make our lives meaningful. A spoonful of salt in a glass of water makes it undrinkably salty, but a spoonful poured into a lake has minimal effect. We are like salt, while life's bitterness or sweetness depends on the vastness of our own minds. Happiness arises from feelings of joy, from a gentle heart, and from our choices. Even a simple matter can become complicated if we overanalyze it. Conversely, a complex matter can become simple if we take it lightly. So when difficulties appear, just smile, no need to overburden the mind. Some people are best simply acknowledged and not overly fretted about. If someone loves to put on a show, applaud them. Exposing them yields little benefit. If others remain convinced they are right, why waste your time arguing? Who you are is what truly counts. As long as you're not ashamed, it is enough. Live with the flow, letting things unfold naturally. In life, there are many relationships, events, and moments that we need not cling to. Greet them with a smile and move on. A bit more openness brings opportunities to learn. A bit more elegance adds beauty. A bit more clarity fills us with happiness. No one's life is easy. We all taste bitterness, sweetness, sorrow, and joy. Transform your sorrows into something poetic. Convert this harsh world into a place of deep affection that is true courage. After all, how could the world be perfect? The sun at its zenith inevitably inclines west. The moon, once full, begins to wane. The most beautiful scenery is often when flowers are not yet in full bloom and the moon not yet entirely round. That sense of something missing becomes eternal. Imperfection is what makes human life real. Each person lives differently. Some fixate on money, children, romantic attachments, winning or losing. Others embrace gratitude, joy, patience, knowing enough as their guiding values. Different choices yield distinct destinies. Accepting reality dissolves many problems, like one who ducks slightly to avoid hitting a doorframe or steps aside to prevent collisions. Having a learning spirit facilitates quick improvement, while contentment engenders an enduring happiness. In this world, the most precious assets are not money or power, but our inner self, moral cultivation, and inherent qualities. These elements define our virtue, trustworthiness, and whether we are good or bad. We must act with honesty, sincerity, and a pure heart. Overcalculating damages no one but ourselves. In every deed, leave room for retreat. In speech, maintain courtesy to avoid cornering yourself. Doing more good naturally reduces harmful deeds. Showing more sincerity lessens cunning. Being generous softens criticisms. Helping others lessens exploitation. Pay attention to the words you speak. Even in jest, be mindful of boundaries. Life is as transient as morning dew. Live like water, pure, calm, and deep. Then why worry you won't find serenity? Time is too brief for regret. Having eaten the meal, there's no need to mention it again. Done is done. No use in agonizing. When two people separate, no need to cling. Our time in this world is a journey. Wealth and glory are like dew glistening on the morning grass. We bring nothing when born and take nothing when we die. Gains and losses ultimately mean little. Let them flow naturally. What is meaningless for one may be precious to another. Recognize your own worth and act accordingly. You need not invite too many people into your life. If you meet someone who cares for you, practice gratitude. If you meet someone you care for, learn to share. If someone does not understand you, cultivate compassion. If you do not understand someone else, strive to learn how. When you can tolerate all the inconveniences around you, focusing only on responsibility rather than personal gain, you stand at a higher vantage of spirit. When you can look forward with hope, look down with sympathy, and look up with gratitude, your soul is elevated. Life requires not only foresight and insight, but also the ability to truly understand. Seeing far shows us the broader picture. Seeing through illusions helps us realize that worldly clamor often revolves around fame and gain. Understanding thoroughly does not mean we give up all pursuits, but that we maintain peace and composure in our hearts. While it may be impossible to change our appearance, we can transform our attitudes. A shift in character can alter our entire lives. In our interactions with others, sincerity, warmth, and authenticity can bring about positive outcomes. A genuine smile may be more powerful than formal politeness, bringing warmth to anyone we meet. Stepping back a little can open the sky. Forgiving others is also showing mercy to ourselves. Because in letting go, we welcome a smile for ourselves. Nobody is flawless, and no relationship is free from blemish. If we open our hearts and accept that truth, we'll find the world is not as bad as our negative thinking might suggest. Understanding can lead us out of darkness onto a new landscape, like crossing a bridge to reach a broader road. Much of our past misery vanishes. Because we all carry anxieties and frustrations, sometimes the world appears bleak. We lament human connections as flimsy as tissue. Yet the sun still shines, each morning bright as ever. It is merely that sometimes we stand in the shadows. And letting go of grudges is not weakness, but a sign of open-heartedness, a wise choice. On this extraordinary journey called life, meeting anyone is due to karma. We ought to cherish that. Do not let anger erase the goodness of relationships, leaving only regrets. There are 3 essential keys in life: acceptance, change, and departure. If you cannot accept, change. If you cannot change, leave. That is all. Optimists use their smiles to handle unfavorable circumstances. Pessimists let themselves be consumed by complaints and forget the joy of living. No road is perfectly straight. There are always twists and turns. You must endure them to move forward. Those turns are not defeat, but opportunities to cultivate perseverance. Even in disappointment, do not collapse. Recall how your loved ones are watching. Even in despair, do not surrender. The problem may not lie in the task, but in our own mindset. Value each choice you make. Do not grumble, for everyone has their own burdens. Nobody can help you forever. Be strong. When sadness or weariness envelops you, encourage yourself. If no one worries for you, all the more reason to be courageous. If no one cheers for you, learn to soar on your own. If no one admires you, keep yourself neat, fresh, and refined. Look at the grass beneath your feet, the flowers by the road, and leaves in the trees. Even humble life forms live beautifully. Life is impermanent and fleeting, but no one can buy health. When anger flares, refrain from speaking. You will regret words uttered in rage. Forgive those who hurt you. Life may be difficult, but never lose faith in yourself, for bright tomorrows remain. Whether one has high moral character or has sunk to the lowest depths, remember to respect your parents, for you too will age one day. Never forget the kindness of those who have helped you. Do not hate those who once loved you. Never betray the trust of those who believe in you. In truth, no hardship is insurmountable. No person is indispensable. If something loses its meaning, or you are not valued, then turn away decisively. You may cry or feel pain, but do not despair. Today's tears will mature into tomorrow's strength, and your scars will become resilience for the future. Life is not so terrible. Right or wrong, success or failure, all are valuable lessons. If your mind is calm, happiness is ever present. Regardless, life moves on, so do not spend your days worrying about eternity. Instead, protect the peace in your heart. Learn to live with strength, for no one else can live your life for you. Patience and perseverance will see you through. Even if you cannot see hope right now, continue to believe in yourself. Sometimes you must bear burdens heavier than you think possible, only to discover your capabilities exceed your imagination. The path of life is not always smooth. Learn to accept and keep smiling. Dry your tears, let go of your burdens, and continue along the road you have chosen. In time, everything will be fine. Life rarely offers a second chance. You are the author of your own story, and there is no need to script a tragic tale. Standing off in a distant corner of life, full of fear, benefits no one. Life itself is not complicated. Try living it more simply. We each have only a single journey through life. Riches and splendor are like the dewdrops on morning grass, ephemeral. We are born empty-handed and leave the same way. Gains or losses matter little. When we flow with nature, we find peace. Some matters, once let go, bring immediate relief. Some people, upon remembrance, bring happiness. Some sorrows, when finally understood, yield newfound strength. Dwelling too much on one issue leads nowhere. Even a simple matter becomes complicated when overthought. Maintain a calm spirit, open heart, and every difficulty will pass peacefully, leaving you with tranquil days. I choose to be kind, not because I am foolish, but because kindness aligns with human nature. I do not choose malice, for I know that wrongdoing leads to retribution. I choose to yield not out of fear, but because yielding a little fosters serenity, and retreating a step reveals vast horizons. I choose tolerance not from cowardice, but because among humans we need acceptance and mutual support for harmony to flourish. I choose silence not due to ignorance, but because I realize that misunderstandings and unfairness can be resolved by letting things go, allowing them to fade in time. I choose forgiveness not from lack of principles, but because by forgiving others, I also free myself. Why dismiss an entire relationship over one mistake? I choose honesty not from naivete, but because living truthfully is far lighter than juggling deceptions. I choose loyalty not from stubbornness, but because I want to share meaningful moments with those friends I have the karmic fortune to meet. I cannot deceive or lie, for such acts will never bring good outcomes or genuine companions. Life inevitably presents us with unwanted circumstances and difficult people. Unless we can overlook and let go, we will be trapped in exhaustion and frustration. People differ in knowledge, perspective, character, so inevitably they handle things differently. Clashes, tensions, and conflicts are normal. In those times, forgiveness becomes a sign of poise and moral training, a shield that guides us forward through storms. Forgiving others may demand sacrifice or generosity, but it is not weakness. It clears the road ahead, giving us space to move on. Life is like the sky. It won't always be clear and blue for our amusement. Sometimes it darkens, giving rise to our sadness. It cannot forever give us happiness and fortune. Occasionally, it forces us to taste bitterness. Open your heart, learn to live forgivingly, and pass beyond hurtful people and events. Often, focusing too much on personal desires makes us overly attentive to others' reactions. When our demands are unmet, we feel victimized. The greater our greed, the more fragile we become. The more we fixate on our personal benefit, the more calculations we make. And the more we want, the bigger our losses seem. In the end, we suffer from our own excess. If our greed diminishes, others cannot leverage it against us. If we fully uproot greed, afflictions have nowhere to cling, and we become free. We are here in this realm, weaving illusions one after another, yet everything evaporates like clouds. Having spent the night in a wayside inn, we mistake it for home. Eventually, everything we cling to disperses. Flowers bloom and wilt in the blink of an eye. Laughter turns distant and ephemeral. Joys and sorrows blow away in the wind, dissolving in the far-off skies. A slight glance in the mirror shows gray hair, revealing life's impermanence. We then lower the twilight over our shoulders, missing the boat. Our regrets echo in the night. Reaching a certain age, one naturally tires of noise and clamor. A calm mind fosters better health and longevity. It does not matter whether we are rich or poor. If our heart is serene, we already live happily. Some things deserve indifference. If you can't clarify them, let them be. Some people should pass by, let them pass. If all you know is remembering, never forgetting, always calculating but never letting go, always trying to be cunning but never a little foolish, you will remain heavy with worry. Overthinking complicates life. Living simply is a gift from the universe. A mind that thinks positively will see goodness in all things. A life with fewer troubles arises when you transform whatever comes your way into something joyful. Those who know how to live follow the flow of conditions. That which is meant to be yours will remain yours. That which is not will never be. So if you wish to hold on to something, let it follow its natural course. You may pursue your desires, but when attempts exceed all limits and yield no result, it might be time to let go. Clinging only brings suffering, entangled in regret. A relaxed mind arises when you let everything be as it is. This is how we learn to accept life fully. The lighter you hold on to things, the more peaceful your mind. Material gains and fame are fleeting, never following us in death. Anger, sorrow, and resentment will also pass, leaving only the self behind. Why not learn to lightly regard all matters, practicing detachment, letting your burdens be blown away? Human suffering frequently stems from greed, hatred, and delusion. Therefore, to live in happiness, reduce personal wants, and accept imperfection as part of being human. Letting go is a sign of wisdom. Only by letting go can we find genuine peace. Another source of heartache is demanding absolute perfection in how others treat us. Once we accept others' inevitable flaws, we can be happy now, enjoying each moment. Realizing that life is imperfect fosters compassion, confidence in humanity, and reduces dissatisfaction and disappointment. Whether we find joy or suffering depends on our attitude toward the ups and downs of an ever-changing world. Living simply leads to joy, but few truly know how. Overthinking leads to misery, which abounds around us. Many troubles stem from indecision. Thus, pick up what you must, drop what needs letting go. Concluding what is necessary allows a new start. Happiness arises from choosing a calm mind, from cultivating a gentle heart. Even a trivial matter becomes complicated if we overthink, yet even a complex matter can simplify if we hold it lightly. Each person's life is filled with challenges, joys, sadness, bitterness, sweetness. Transform your pains into something more poetic. Turn the cruelty of the world into genuine, heartfelt connections that is true ability. This realm lacks total perfection. At noon, the sun declines west. At fullness, the moon begins to wane. The loveliest time is often just before full bloom or just before perfect roundness, when there's a slight sense of incompleteness, everlasting and poetic. Imperfection defines human existence. At middle age, we finally grasp impermanence. Ironically, impermanence is the only constant. Having experienced half our lives, we see that the nature of human existence is ultimately solitary. We know life is limited, yet we keep chasing illusions. Waves crash upon the shore of time, washing away joys and sorrows. Recognizing stillness in the midst of pain is a blessing. Upon awakening, worldly illusions fade, and we greet the world calmly. Black or white, praise or scorn, no matter. Life is short. The best we can do is smile at it all. Neither dwell too much on those who trouble us, nor linger in regrets. Every meeting and every farewell has its karmic cause. Letting things flow naturally brings true peace. In childhood, happiness was simple. When we grow up, living simply becomes our happiness. We suffer from disappointment because of overblown expectations. Grandiose dreams vanish. Hoarding too much blocks expression. We can't forget some people because we can't bear to. We must forget others because they are not worth remembering. We are tired because we remain undecided between perseverance and letting go. We may understand everything logically, yet be reluctant to accept reality emotionally. Those who enter our lives do so by karmic pull, but whether they stay or leave depends on us. Not explaining ourselves is less burdensome. Not clinging leads to a broader path. An imperfect life remains a real life. No matter how well you live, some will admire you while others criticize you. Some love you while others despise you. No one pleases everyone. Do not lose yourself trying to appease others. We must have our own principles and dignity. Through others' words, you may find countless versions of yourself, but only you possess the genuine version. You just need to stay true to your own best self. Living doesn't require universal approval. Simply be honest and generous. Flowers bloom in myriad shapes and colors, each radiating its own fragrance without obstructing others. Let each person have their space. If you feel someone is worthy, treasure them. If something brings you happiness, protect it. If it moves you, love it. Living well can be simple. Walk your own path, and when storms strike, remind yourself, beyond the storm, the sun will shine. Don't waste time complaining in front of others, for they may not really care. Some burdens, once laid down, bring relief. Some people, when remembered, grant joy. Certain sorrows, once understood, strengthen you. Overly obsessing leads nowhere. A simple matter can turn complex if you think about it endlessly. Keep a calm mind and open heart, and each difficulty will pass quietly, leaving you with serenity. Life flies by in the blink of an eye. If we surpass illusions of fame and profit, we grasp what is real. In complex situations, act gently. Set aside useless attachments to walk further. Yield to others to avoid trivial fights. Look farther to see the rainbow after rain. Pack lightly for the journey so you can roam freely 1,000 miles. Ultimately, the most beautiful view is not what the eyes see, but what the heart perceives. Profound feelings need no words. They reveal themselves in silent actions. Whenever you feel uncertain, contemplate the virtue of water. Gentle, quiet, silently nourishing and transforming all things, never contending. If each of us practiced until we reached that level, how could the world not be peaceful? If you see the goodness in people and the meaning in all things, life becomes joyful and the world bright. If you carry vexation, all becomes an obstacle and the world appears harsh. Many want to be more attractive. The best way is maintaining a serene mind and a happy spirit, an elegance that shines naturally. In truth, all we have in this life is the fruit of our own past actions, and our current doings will sow future results. Life continues in this cycle. Realizing this protects us from negativity. We do not blame heaven and earth when misfortune comes. Merits arise from diligence, kindness, and service. Cultivate compassion for the poor. Use your resources to repay kindnesses and maintain respectful attitudes toward all. Faith in karma will discourage destructive behavior. Always revere others, practicing forgiveness and gratitude. As the ocean becomes vast by accepting all rivers, so do we become large-hearted by embracing others. There are two things we must do in life: walk and pause. Are you doing both with a positive mindset? A bright attitude is our best companion. keeping us healthy and content. Whether near or far, if there is an opportunity for friendship, offer genuine goodwill. Because if you do not light the incense on ordinary days, waiting to do so only in emergencies is futile. We should accumulate kindness just like depositing into a bank. The more often and the longer we save, the greater the return. When dealing with events, do not be hasty, especially not in anger. Try to see from various perspectives, reducing major conflicts to minor and minor ones to none. The more complex a situation, the more calmly we should handle it. Never complicate something simple. Embrace the notion of enough. Much of our suffering arises from meaningless comparisons. You will find someone worse off than you, but also someone better off. When you lament lacking fine shoes, remember there are those without feet. If an opponent angers you, you have not truly surpassed them. Turning around to argue with someone who insults you is pointless, akin to being bitten by a mad dog and deciding to bite back. So, there's no need to let malicious words disturb your peace. Do not see work as a burden. Instead of frustration, greet it with joy. If you see work as an art and a way of life, you can taste its intrinsic satisfaction. One more day to live is a blessing, cherish it. Life is short, so avoid doing things you'll regret. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. You have the same length of day whether you complain or delight in it. Paying attention to others' gossip merely disrupts our own peace. Regardless of regrets, wariness, fortune, or adversity, yesterday is gone. Once past, let it go. Doing your best means there's no need for remorse. Many aspects of life we must handle ourselves. Many feelings we must face on our own. A spacious heart leads to spacious ways. A narrow mind results in constraints. A wise person remembers compassion as well as truth. 1 year cycles through the 4 seasons, but life itself moves straight ahead. You only sow once and reap once. If we do not strive for a bountiful harvest, our precious human existence ends up lacking. Our lives boil down to 3 days: yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Yesterday has forever passed like drifting clouds and flowing water. Today is already slipping into the past. Tomorrow is yet to come, but will also soon fade away. In an instant, the new year arrives. Turn around, and life is already over. Only by letting go of yesterday and treasuring the present can tomorrow come without regret. In the friendships we cultivate across a lifetime, relying solely on emotion can lead to tragedy, but leaning solely on intellect can become absurd. Without steep climbs, what is there to conquer? Without suffering, how could it be called life? Where there is life, there is bitterness and sweetness, warmth and cold. Everyone hopes to sail calmly with no heartbreak, to hold on to genuine love without parting. Some matters, once seen clearly, seem lighter. Some people, once understood thoroughly, no longer trouble us. At times, being too strict causes frustrations. Even giving our best can incur blame. Sometimes it is better to be carefree, focusing on those in front of us and doing our work well. Let us be sincere and kind, so we have no regrets, trusting that destiny will unfold in due time. Life is but one journey. Prosperity is like morning dew shimmering on a leaf. We arrive empty-handed, we leave empty-handed. We do not need to force illusions or chase anything to exhaustion. A calm awareness is enough.